once I get some of these more fantastic stories out of the way, I feel like I would probably land on something more based in reality, slice of lifey type stuff. I don't, not kids stuff. I think I would just get further away from it by doing that.
Yeah. But
did I just kill the podcast?
Yeah. Again, black and white screen, Jamie, as usual. You know what to do.
And cut.
This is the INKPULP Podcast. Welcome to the INKPULP Podcast, everyone. This time we have no man behind the wheel, no Eric Canetti. We are running off the tracks today.
Yeah.
We've got our lovely co-host.
Eric sucks. As you say, as you can see from my name. Yeah, Eric sucks.
Yeah, that's a good one. I should have done something similar, but we'll talk plenty of shit on Eric today, no doubt.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we've got my lovely brother from another mother, Mattteo Scalera.
Hello.
Fratello brother.
Hello.
Up,
How are you?
Good. And we've got an awesome guest today. And Michele, I'm going to need your help with the last name. Just I don't want to murder it. So we have Michele.
May I try first?
Oh no! Sorry. Go ahead. Maybe like pretend like you didn't hear me. How would you read it?
Matteo, what were you going to say?
I was busy talking, so I didn't hear it. So
okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So,
go ahead.
Assarasakorn.
Yes. Perfect.
Wow.
Bravo.
You nailed it. You totally nailed it.
I don't know. I see that in the States, you have a lot of troubles with this, names with, a lot of letters. But, in Italy, we used to read each single letter of every name. So it's not a big deal, I mean, it's a complicated last name.
Yeah, it seems more syllable.
Wrong, yeah.
It's not that bad. It's like Mississippi, you break it into syllables and it flows.
But Michele, you're in Canada, right? Not the States?
I am in Canada. I'm in Vancouver.
Okay, that's West Coast, correct?
That is West Coast. I used to be in Toronto, and then I moved to BC in the past decade, I think.
What brought you out there?
A boy. Just kidding. My now husband. We met in Toronto, and then he's from the West Coast, and so we moved to Kelowna first, which is a small town, just 4 hours from Vancouver, and then I couldn't hack it. I'm a city girl, so I had to move to Vancouver.
Okay.
And he's an artist too, right? Am I right?
He is. He's in animation. He's in feature, so he does storyboards for feature.
Yeah.
Oh, so nice.
Does he work at home as well, or he works in a studio, I suppose, right?
He works for a studio, but he works from home. And so we've been doing this for since we've met, which is we're doing the remote work thing before it was cool. And now it's, it's kind of cool that everybody's catching on that working from home could be so great.
Yeah. How's it working, shoulder by shoulder with your husband? Is that, I don't know. I never worked with anybody sitting right next to me. So unless you work in separate rooms, I don't know.
No, so Vancouver's notorious for really expensive real estate. So all we were able to afford is this one bedroom. It's barely a one bedroom. And so we would work one of us would work in the kitchen. The other would work on the other side of the room, in the living room. And luckily we're not doing the same thing. So there's not a lot of conflict, but, it took some time to get used to. I think it helped that we started earlier in our careers, and so it's not so annoying now. He does talk really loudly, though. He's got these noise canceling headphones, so when he's in his meetings,
he's not realizing the surroundings.
So overstimulating. I'm just I can't work. So now Mattteo, I work in a co-work space.
So you're gonna kick him out of the house soon.
Pardon?
You're gonna kick him out of the house soon.
He kicked me out of the house. I have a kid. We go to the co-work space, and he gets the house to himself. Which
I've been curious. I've been curious about this co-work space. So, do you pay per day? Is it like a monthly rental? How
No,
does it work?
I have a desk there. So it functions as like there's a section for a hot desk so people could come in, pay by the hour, and then
Mm-hmm.
I pay for the monthly. So I've leased it for the entire year because I can't get a day care spot for my kid, my toddler, and so they have child minding upstairs, and so I get to leave my baby upstairs, and then I get to work for like half the
Oh.
day, basically. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
that desk is your desk. Like no one else is sitting at. That's good. That's what I
Yeah,
wondered.
yeah. I got my big Cintiq there. I've got my like remote setup there. I've got like the house
Nice.
set up here. Yeah.
Are
Nice.
there
All right.
comic book artists working in the in that
No,
studio?
Vancouver is it's like it's not like Toronto or Montreal. Like this is something I missed a lot about the East Coast is like there's definite hubs, like Raid. I started
Mm-hmm.
off sort
Yeah.
of hanging out with guys at Raid. And then I visited Carl and Brendan and Andy in Montreal. But like here, there is Nathan and I and a couple of other like Johnny Christmas is here, Faith Aaron Hicks is here. I might be forgetting some other names, but in a lot of the kids publishing middle grade comics world is here. And
Oh,
we
okay.
don't socialize that frequently. There's no hub for us to go to. I believe Dave McKeag used to share a studio with Nathan here because they're both colorists, but I think Dave moved somewhere else. I think he's in Toronto.
Yeah,
So
Dave
yeah.
moved. He moved to the U.S. for a little while, and then
Mm-hmm.
when Donald Trump won the presidency, Dave was like, "I'm out of here," and
Oh
went to
wow,
Okay.
Toronto.
really?
Good for
He
Dave.
colored something
Yeah,
of
good
Good.
for
yours,
Dave.
Sean. Is it? Did he ever color
Yeah, he
something?
colored my Batman book.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Dave colored my
Yeah.
Yeah,
Batman
he's
thing.
great. He's
I
great.
love his
So
Yeah.
colors.
that's sort of like a point of connection for us, Sean, because Dave was coloring Gotham Academy. And
Yep.
then I think
Yep.
it was too much work. I wasn't sure what the conflict was there. But anyway, he left. And that's when it was around the time I approached Carl at TCAF. And I just graduated concept art from school. So I had zero experience in comics. And I was like, I really like your work. I paint backgrounds for animation. Maybe I could like work with you someday. And like 6 months later, he emails me to be like, we need a background artist. Are you into this? And that's when I started really getting into comic painting.
So you did the background stuff in Gotham Academy. That was the first time you worked with Carl?
Yes, yes. And Serge Lapointe was doing the characters. Yeah.
That's right.
So he was
That's
doing
what
the
it
cell
was.
shaded characters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then from then on, it was like Wonder Woman anniversary. And then we were figuring out a style of like, how do we, because Gotham Academy had a very painterly animation esque style
Yeah.
and it didn't print well. I was so green in this field that I didn't know much about CMYK and like how paper absorbs ink. I was
Mm-hmm.
later schooled by Nathan about all of this,
Okay.
but
I
any
was
of the
going to
pages
ask.
you see previously is like so muddy. And I feel really bad because now I'm understanding better how to paint with brightness and light. And so
Mhm.
that's when we landed on a style in Isola. That was like the book I did with
Yeah.
Carl and Brendan
Right.
where I sort of like honed in on like the painterly versus for comics kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Isola was
And
gorgeous. Mateo, you saw
Isola, you
Isola,
did.
right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's beautiful. And on Isola, did you do the backgrounds as well, or you? I know
I
just the
colored the whole
colors.
thing.
You colored the
I
whole
colored
thing.
the whole thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
You mean like drew the backgrounds?
Yeah.
Carl drew the
Did you
background.
draw? Yeah, yeah. That was my question mainly. Like, did you draw the backgrounds as well, or you manage only the
No,
coloring? Okay, okay.
I manage only the coloring, but
Mm-hmm.
that would be amazing. That's still like the goal, right? To like be Carl level of like background and environmental drawings.
Always
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's my goal, too. That's my goal.
I'm working on it, okay? I'm just starting in the middle grade, kids books and then maybe I'll graduate. But I do
So,
love the genre I'm in right now.
so you've kind of opened your career a bit. You're now doing interiors. Is that correct?
Yes, I'm illustrating a middle grade comic book for 8 to 12-year-old girls. And
When
I'm
you
doing
say middle grade, what does that mean?
it means think like Babysitters Club realm. So middle grade
Okay,
is
so
like
Oh, age group. You mean age
olds.
group. Right.
Yes,
I got you.
yes.
Okay. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah. And so I'm drawing these, puppies and friendships, books about girls and their dogs.
Yeah, the book is called Paws,
this is
right?
For which?
Paws.
Yeah.
Here
it is.
There you go.
I've got an Italian version too, Matteo, if your kids want to pick it up.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I mean, is too young right now, because I think it's more or less your kid's age. Is that right? Like your kid is almost 2 something. Is that right?
Oh, 2 years old? No. So this is, how old are your kids, Matteo?
Oh, I just got one and he's almost 2.
Oh, almost 2. Yeah. So my kid's almost 2 years old too. She turns
they're
2
more or less the same
Sunday.
age. Okay. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, mine are much older because I am much older. So how are you liking working? I'm trying to pick the right word in a style. Like, does that style feel true to your artistic voice, or are you that's just for a job? Like the style you're drawing those books in.
I think I am starting to discover that it is true to my artistic voice. So
nice.
The experience I had with developing this book was that I had no experience drawing. So I was primarily a painter. I did some concept art. So a lot more painting heavy, basically, like a lot more structural, like carving stuff.
Right.
And then when I had to do a pitch for this book, in the developmental stages, I remember I was using like silhouettes, like in a very animation concept art style, like if you would look at books from Ratatouille, for example, like you just have shape exploration and then some line work filled into these silhouettes. And I learned that wasn't a sustainable way of working if you were to create a 180-page comic per year. And because it would require me to color and draw the whole thing, which was not sustainable. And so I eventually practiced, drawing in a style I was comfortable with. And I did a little bit of doodling already. Like I go traveling a lot with my partner, and I would draw these like crazy things we do because we wouldn't have a camera to capture it. Like we were both rock climbers, for instance, and we would do these like multi pitches. And you couldn't take a photo of that. There's no like filmographer taking videos of us. And so I would draw those experiences. And so Nathan was like, why don't you try and like do this style? And so I experimented with that. And then finally I got really comfortable with drawing, these girls in this style. And I think over time, it just got more and more solid. Like they grew into their characters. I'm sure you could relate to that process. You start understanding more how to perform them and like what expressions, the range of expressions these characters can have, right?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
When did you start working on Paws?
During the pandemic, so 2021, I think we pitched it around 2020. Oh gosh, the dates are blurry.
You were involved from the inception of the idea of Paws?
Yeah.
It wasn't. It wasn't just a work for hire job.
It's not. So it's a co-creator process. But Nathan is like the father of this project. He basically created this because he worked in comics for a long time, and his kids weren't interested in anything he was creating because they were a lot younger. And so he decided to write something for his daughter, something that his daughter might read. And so we went through the process of applying for a grant for the initial process to get it to so that I could work on it, and then we could pitch it to a publisher. And then we got the grant. We somehow, an editor from Penguin Razorbill contacted us. He liked our project, and then we got like a 3-book series.
Oh, nice.
And then afterwards we were approached for a 5-book series. And so it's just this sort of like a funny collaboration because he does all the story and like the big picture character development. And then I come in with the aesthetic. And I can't believe he trusted me for the entire process because I had no experience. But
when you say
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mattteo. Go ahead.
No. I was just asking if in some occasions does it like, do you have a voice do you have a chance to put something of yours in the story, or it's just exclusively the aesthetic of the story?
I would say that we talk a lot about the experiences of these characters, and sometimes he will draw on experiences that I've told him about my life. For example, in the second book, there's like a new love interest, and that character is very much my husband. So I drew.
So he's loud.
My husband.
It's really loud. It screams every time. And
he's loud. Yeah, he's like, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Nerdy rock climber, nerdy rock climber dude in the second book as the love interest of one of the parents. But yeah, I think that in terms of what I get to infuse to it, I think it's the agency, like the acting of the characters. I feel like I get to perform a lot, and I was always in love with animation. So I didn't think I would land in comics because I went to school for concept art after, it's in an animation school. So this is an animation school in Toronto. And I came from Thailand, and there was nothing like this in Thailand, like no degree, no person working in the industry that I could model my career off of. And so I was very lost when I graduated. And so I started dabbling in sort of different jobs part-time just to see what it would be like. And so the coloring thing really stuck with me because I was like, wow, I'm basically carving my own path here where I'm combining these different skills that I've accumulated into this thing. And I was really clumsy at it. I think at the beginning, I just really didn't know. And, you just sort of work on it until you figure out something, and then you're able to own that skill a little more.
Well, that's I consider that to be a skill. There's a lot of people that wouldn't jump right in and just do the thing, which is the only thing you could do when you start. So I think that there's a lot of people that freeze in that kind of moment, and they don't feel like they're gonna be up for it, and they just give up. So that's a great skill to have, I think. And
I think. Sorry, I was just going to add that, like, reflecting back on it, I don't know if, like, it's funny that you sometimes you overthink these things, but if you just let your intuition, like, go by your gut and kind of just go off the deep end anyway, it tends to work out because now you can't back out of the experience, right? Like, you got to commit, and you're forced to improve.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm glad I did that.
Yeah, that's a rule that's applicable in life, in basically everything. The more you try to get in instead of going around things, it's the only the only way for a full experience of the thing, and you'll come out, as you said, improved after. So I totally agree with that. And I wanted to ask you, go ahead, this time it's your turn. Sorry.
I was going to ask you, Mattteo, because you do have some real wisdom in you when it comes to life.
Yeah,
and
I don't look like a guy who would have any wisdom at all. But somehow, absolutely.
Were you just like always wise beyond your years?
I think, like, in general, I had a brain that was a little older than my actual age. I used to.
I can relate to that.
Awesome. Okay. Let's romanticize it and say we're old souls.
You a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes. So like, I was really known for hanging out with old people, like old men. It's like embarrassing to think now, but like during school, I would hang out with like 50 to like 70-year-olds. And people were like, "You're in."
Oh shit!
I accidentally went out on a date. Yeah, I'm talking about like father mentorship kind of vibe.
We're talking about Shawn's hold, like.
Hey, easy. He's
not a grandparent yet,
No. Don't put me there. Do not put me there.
I think he's gonna be like 1 year or so, right? Who do you think,
probably.
Zoe or
No,
Zach?
no, don't. I'm not going there. I'm not doing that.
We hit a button.
I don't want to be. I'm not ready to be a grandparent. Come on. Oh my God.
Well, they will have a great, like a really cool granddad. So, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt, but still, I'm just not ready. Just not ready.
So, Michele, is there you said that right now the plan is 5 books. When you talk about a book, it's like a TPB, like how many pages?
176.
Oh, okay, so there's
a
big books. Like you said, 1 year each, more or less. Okay.
Yeah, about 1 year. Except this fourth book, I have about 8 months. Yeah,
shit!
It's so crazy because the writing process, like just sort of finalizing the draft, and then the layouts, and then the clean, and it's funny when I signed up to do this book, I was like, great, it's going to be so easy. It's for kids. I'm going to draw these cute girls and a couple of dogs. And at this point, there's like 5 characters, 1 in a wheelchair, 5 dogs, and like their parents, full settings. And I'm just like, oh my God, how am I going to finish this in like 6 months, 7 months? So I'm really hustling to try and draw maybe 1 or 2 pages a day, which is so wild.
Oh yeah, that's a great pace. Absolutely.
That's Matteo's pace. I'm not. I can't.
It used to be. I'm
not
not like that anymore. I gave up. Like, okay, I proved to myself that I could do it, and now I don't want to edit this shit anymore. Like,
I'm really worried because that's how I used to work. I was like, okay, I'll just like, early 30s, late 20s. I was like, I'll just hustle, just work really hard. And now that I'm a mom, by 8 p.m., I'm so dead. Like, oh my gosh.
I hear you.
I can't. Yeah.
It gets much harder when children come into the equation, and as they grow, it doesn't get easier.
I'm actually trying to give up on calculating how many like pages I can do in a week or stuff like that. And one thing that I was used to do is when I see that we're halfway through the page and I have only like 1 hour left, and I'm like I used to start doing like, okay, I gotta rush because I gotta finish this page by today. Like for example, today I was working on a page, and at a certain point I was like, okay, I'll just stop, and I just have like I would say 35 minutes worth of work left. I'll save it for tomorrow. And I'm starting to train my mind not to be constantly influenced by this thing of I gotta finish the page by this specific date.
I think it's a result of being like in this industry where per page, that's how you get paid, right? Yeah. And so you're always deducting like the day rate and like the project rate and the time you put into Absolutely. That. I feel the same way because I like on top of this like drawing, I'm still coloring on the side. And it's like this balancing act of like getting out of the scarcity mindset of like hustling basically. Yeah. And I'm trying to just enjoy my work because that's why I'm doing it in the first place.
Yeah. Everything you just said is really ringing home with me. And you just called it a scarcity mentality. And and it was in my therapy session like last month where we were having this kind of conversation, and I was learning that I was always operating from like what you call a scarcity, what my therapist called a position of lack. Like, and it's not a good place to do anything from, and it's definitely not a good place to create from. So I've been doing the same thing, just like what I get done in a day is what I get done, and I want to get back to just enjoying doing what I'm doing instead of racing against the clock all the time.
Where do you think that mindset comes from?
With me?
I think
the scarcity, this whole thing. Where do you have an idea, Michele, where it might come from?
I do, but Michele, you go first. I have a definite idea where mine comes from.
I think it's just in school. I think it started in school. It's like we're sort of, we have these deadlines and it's arbitrary, right? Like who really cares? And I know that it trains you to get things done online, but there's this balance in doing what you love, in like the philosophy of why you're doing it, and you're drawn in because you want to enjoy it. You enjoy doing it. Soon as it gets commodified, then now you have to put money into it and emotion into it. And so you're always operating with this like reward at the end of like, I have to do this in order to get that. So it's just this feedback loop. And I think as a struggling, the cliche of like a struggling artist, life is so expensive now. So hustle culture with social media, it's just all of that on top of it makes it really difficult to get out of. But I do think that there is this cultural shift of slowing down. Like I'm starting to see that more and more now, or maybe that's just the algorithm feeding that into me. But I found that one of the tools that really helped me detach from that mindset was taking the emotion out of the finance part. I was working with a life coach for 3 months, and I was like having all these financial issues because even though I was having like a modest income now from like all the books I'm working on, it's dual income with my partner, like we're comfortable, right? I was still operating in this scarcity mindset, like you said, Shawn. And I was like, but why? Like the data, the numbers aren't equal to how I'm feeling. And so there was a lot more to untangle there. And she just like said these words that sort of shifted my mindset, which was like, just take the emotion out of it. Like there shouldn't be any emotion tied to the number. That is just a number. And then once you could remove yourself from it and understand the psychology behind it, then you could start operating on a more clean slate from like neutrality.
Was the emotion like fear-based? Like you're not going to make enough money, like worried you're not going to have enough money?
At some point, I feel like it was just an emotion that had no reason. But I think it probably started from there. Like when there's, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's
there's like a cliche saying, like, have you ever been angry at a person, like from like high school, for instance? And then you see them again, but you don't remember what you were angry about, but you still like hated them or like resented them. That's sort of the thing. Like you start
I feel
losing
the thing for Eric because it's not ear though. So I know the reason why.
We don't like Mattteo and I don't like Eric at all, but I don't remember why. Do you remember why, Mattteo?
No, it's just his face.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's his fucking face.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to add something to what you were saying, that sometimes it's just an emotion and sometimes you don't even realize that. And then, sorry, I actually just realized that I cut you off. You didn't finish your thing. So sorry.
Oh no, I think I was able to wrap up. The conclusion was just basically cutting ties with that emotion, like letting go of that identity of like, this is creating stress for me. You just let that go. And it's easier said than done. But I think as soon as you acknowledge it, then you're like, shoot, like that is who I am. I can choose not to be that way. Like it is my choice,
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And what I was about to say earlier is it completely reminded me of a situation. Back then, like years ago now, I studied in a school of comic books in Italy. It was in Milan, which is like 1 hour from where I live. And Milan is considered basically to be the New York of Italy, because it's the business town and everybody's always in a rush. And, it's a really stressful, it's a hustler city. And I realized after a while, so what I had to do to go to school, I had to grab a train from Parma, from my city. And then I had to get to the metro and get to the school by metro. And in the brief moment between the train and the metro, I would run, but I had no reason to run because I was perfectly on time. But the surrounding was so stressful because everybody was running. So I would start running for no reason at all. just because there was this. Yeah, absolutely.
I was just going to say, remember what I said about your wisdom? I take it back.
You're like the wildebeest from Lion King when it's like a stampede, and you're just like, oh shit, what's going on?
Yeah. So I don't know if you can relate this to your story, to your concept, but in my head, it immediately reminded me of that situation. At a certain point, I stopped like, why the fuck I'm running every time? I don't need to run, because I was attaching probably that emotion. Like I was taking this emotion from the outside and put it inside of me. And it just, I was possessed, I was we call it the dumb shark
during the pandemic
and on the podcast. I started doing things. I'm in a frenzy and I don't remember why, I don't know why I'm doing stuff.
It's Matteo's new term, dumb shark mode.
I go dumb shark. Yeah, my eyes
his
turn
pupils
black
dilate.
Like a shark.
Was that a thing in Nemo? I think that must be.
Exactly. Yeah, Bruce the shark. Yeah, you have kids, Dude, we watched. Nemo came out when Zoe was a baby, and in the theaters, it was like her first movie we took her to. And then when it came out on DVD, it was just over and over and over. Have you guys reached that phase with your kids where like they're just watching the same movie over and over and over?
I don't know, Michelle. Is your daughter allowed to watch TV for now or not?
Limited only on the weekends, and she watches like Sesame Street or like
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Couple of YouTube, nostalgic stuff. We're kind of mindful with the sort of screen time because we both work in entertainment. So it's like, okay, we'll give you the good stuff when you're ready.
Yeah. I guess if I could impart any advice to you guys with a young child is
just
keep that phone out of their life as long as you can. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be really difficult at times, but that thing, that's a rough one.
Yeah.
If you can.
It is.
But then I heard a story. I heard someone talking like they did that. They kept the phone out of their kids' lives, but all the other kids are communicating through text and DMs, and there were parties happening, and this kid wasn't like necessarily invited just because they weren't on the thread, and the parent was like, "Why aren't you going to that party?" It's like I didn't know about it. So there's danger in it too.
It's a double-edged.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the more important thing is just giving them the tools to understand, and like maybe it's a little too early for pop science, but be like, this is what it does to your brain. There are chemicals in your brain, and explain to them the addictive nature of how these things are designed to get your attention.
Yeah,
that's true.
By the way, my kid watches Masha and Bear. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a Russian.
I don't know that one.
It's the worst. It's this bear and this little kid called Masha, and she tortures this bear. But every time at the end, he tries to run away, and she always finds a way to find him and just torture this poor bear. But in the end, at the end of every episode, she does something nice for him.
What are you showing your kid?
Yeah. But I don't know. He just loves that. And so sometimes when we can't stand him anymore, if we spend the whole day with him, because he can be a lot when he wants.
Oh, he's your kid.
So we just, okay, Masha and Bear, just watch it. And it's so no
Sean's
quality
just going
TV.
in with the light jabs today.
Yeah,
no Eric for like a big stab. But I'm so happy I have a girl because I got the calmer energy, and I'm sure this is maybe generalizing a little bit, but I've seen my kids' boys, and my husband is from a family of 4 boys, and so I think this girl energy is like so up my alley. I'm okay with it.
I'm thinking about selling mine and getting a girl. They asked me for my boy plus another 10,000 euros. So I'm starting to gather the money, and when 11 of we'll
you're paying someone to take him from you?
No, we're exchanging like cards, like collectible cards. but they asked me for 10 grand to add on top of my kid. So to get a girl. So,
So Baby Shark Sclera, that's like the branding.
Exactly. But I've had both. And you're right, Michele, that, a girl is really a different energy entirely. And, it was great to have a girl first because it was so easy in so many ways. And then we had a boy. And that's what Matteo's going through.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't hear him, but he's screaming downstairs right now. I just realized that he's arrived. I heard like, "Ah!" It's him. All right. Welcome home, buddy. So if we could, talk for another couple of hours so I can avoid him. Thanks.
Sure. We'll keep going. We'll keep going.
Oh my God, I'm a terrible dad.
Have you guys ever
You're a terrible human. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michele.
Have you guys ever thought of dabbling, since you both have kids, into like the younger genre, like the younger audience?
Matteo, you go.
No, so far, no. I don't know. It was even when you said, I think you were talking about Nathan, that he changed genre because so that his daughter could enjoy his books. And it made me think, because I'm not used to that, mental thing of, I'm gonna do something that my kid would like. So I don't know. I have to think about it. I've never thought about it though. How about you, Shawn?
The short answer is no. I grew up always really loving stories that I probably shouldn't have been reading or watching. Like comics. I liked EC comics when I was young. I liked with books. I liked reading Stephen King at a very young age. So I've always, just as a storyteller, been more drawn to deeper themes and just stuff that pushes boundaries a bit. And I would, like Disney makes really nice kids movies, but they always felt very saccharine, like almost overly sweet. But then Pixar came along and kind of made me think a little more, because their movies do have some much deeper thematic elements to them. But I'm not opposed to it, but the stories I want to tell are not for children now. Mm-hmm. And the stuff I want to draw, I don't know. I think I could maybe not write it, but I could draw something if it was bizarre enough, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So what part of the story, in terms of giving it to an adult, let's say that's your audience, what part of the story or the process is it that you enjoy? Is it the lesson that you're eager to share the conclusion, the lesson of it, or are you more kind of character driven, where you just want to explore different territories and settings?
Both. I want to. I mean, the story that I'm writing now and the stuff I want to get into is very much a part of me trying to navigate and figure out my life. And in doing that, trying to translate that to an entertaining story. But, growing up, if it had violence, sex, and drugs, I was in. So I'm still like in that mentality.
Yeah, to me, it's always been like, I don't know, my driving force, I don't know how to say it. It's just that I have to try to entertain myself. So even with the story that I'm working on now, I'm writing and drawing my own thing now. I always imagine it like it was a movie. Like I get inspired by stuff that happens in my life. Like for example, this book that I'm doing, I had a basic core of the story, and then when I discovered that I was gonna become father, I started asking myself a lot of questions. And I saw these questions would fit the story, so it became a story about fathers in general. And from then, I start to think about the story as it was a movie that I would love to see. And then I translate it into an actual book. So my main goal is always to entertain myself. I think, what if I was the reader? That's my main thing, because it's all about me. Yeah, I'm a selfish person.
No, you know what? That's
I heard so. Go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead.
Oh, it's funny that you're talking about that process, because I feel like I'm finally landing on that conclusion as well. For the longest time, I think I struggled with the meaning of it all. Like, why am I doing this? I love the process. I love, the artistic craft of it, and like getting good at it is so satisfying. But I lacked purpose in general.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't think about my audience, because I grew up in a country where the fandom of North American comics wasn't there. And so when I got to Canada, I just felt so like foreign, like an alien with why people like these things. And they're doing like, I'm not sure if you experienced the same thing, Matteo, because you're in Italy, but it's just a different culture in consumption, right? And so when I started doing the kids stuff and then becoming a mom, I was like, okay, this is more inspiring to me now. I could see why people want to put these stories, and similar to you, Shawn, where you want to explore the journey you're going through in this medium. I feel the same way. And then the conclusion I've landed on is just that I want to create it for myself, basically, to almost document this process for myself. But hoping that it could be of use to someone else as well, especially my daughter or my kid, right? To be like, this is the journey I went on, and this is how I'm presenting it to you. And hopefully it's entertaining and useful. And I think people just want to connect, but like through their own stories. So ultimately that's why we're in this medium. Right?
And to go back to your question before about, have you thought about doing something that your son would like? The answer is so far no, because I've always been used to be the only person in my life that loved comics, basically, because my parents don't give a shit about comic books. All of my girlfriends
and
they don't care even now.
They don't care about you.
They don't care about me in general. Yeah,
they don't care about Mattteo. They don't care about his comics
back then. But then when they saw that I liked them too, they were like, "No, comics are shit now." No, my parents are awesome. I love them. But yeah, in general, even my girlfriends, none of my girlfriends ever even read anything that I did. Like, they don't even, So I've always been, and even my friends here, like my only friends that like comic books are like Shawn and Eric and, all the people overseas. But even my inner circle of friends, nobody cares about comic books. They know something because they saw a movie here and there, but they don't know anything basically about comic books. So I think it came natural to me to just do, you were a comic book reader, you know what you like, because you read a lot of books, and just do what you like pretend you're the reader and entertain yourself. That, I think that's where it comes from, or at least a partial truth to that.
And that's a healthy, like I heard an artist yesterday talking about that, like this idea that you should be considering your audience. And this artist was like, no, I should be doing what I feel is good and trying to entertain myself, and I'll find my audience. And I thought that was pretty smart. Like, just trying to create to please others doesn't seem like a healthy place to create from.
No, it can get you somewhere, but at the end of the road, it's not going to lead you to a healthy thing, I think.
No.
Yeah, I just feel like you go ahead, Michelle.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, even in school, like you were just sort of trained to like
right
hand this in and get a grade, and so we were trained that way.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I will say, I just spent the weekend, I was hanging out with Craig Thompson a bit, and pouring through his original art for the pages he's done and the books he's done. I just feel like once I get some of these more fantastic stories out of the way, I feel like I would probably land on something more based in reality, slice of lifey type stuff. Not kids stuff. I think I would just get further away from it by doing that.
Yeah. But
did I just kill the podcast?
Yeah. Again, black and white screen, Jamie, as usual. You know what to do.
But I didn't even say anything depressing, and that killed it.
It's your tone. It's something in you that happens.
Yeah, there's like a closing finality to it.
Yeah, it's like the people in Milan that run. Like whatever it's around you in that moment, you just turn it off. Oh, Michele, going back to your book, because then we start like digressing, and I wanted to ask you because I remember earlier you said that the plan is so far is to do 5 books. Is there like a chance that it's gonna be like an ongoing, like forever, or it's gonna be ending with the 5th book? Do you know that you can say it or?
For now, I think what Nathan and I had discussed is that it's still open. It's still open, but I have drawn this book for it will be 5 years by the time I'm done.
Yeah, and that's a lot.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would want to continue. It really depends, and I don't know if he wants to continue writing it or not. You know, there's only so much, like, what kind of scenarios can we put these girls in? But if, let's say, the publisher wants to continue with the book, then maybe we could hire like a different set of, you know, we'll just stay at co-creators with some ownership of the IP, and then whoever wants to write and draw it, you know, we could sort of experiment with that format if the publisher's open to it. But in terms of like where I want to go from here, I've been thinking about that all month, and it scares me a little bit, because now it's almost, I have to pre-plan to be like, okay, what's my next step? Do I go back into coloring full time? Do I go into lean hard into drawing some more? What do I want to do? It's all very scary.
Well, the fact alone that you're thinking about it, it's really healthy, because it means that you're trying to, you know, find your way and not just be drawn by, you know, exterior forces, if it makes sense.
Yeah. I really enjoy that process, I think, just like sort of following the intuition, but also strategizing in the business mindset. Like that really excites me.
All right.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
You just tapped into something I was just about to bring up, because we got about 15 minutes left. But Michele and I actually hopped on Zoom a couple weeks ago. We were just talking about making instructional videos, and it led to a deeper conversation of like strategizing your business, diversifying what you do. And I know it's something we both wanted to talk about today. And Mattteo, you'd be great to talk about this too. So Michele, talk to the podcast audience about what your thoughts on being an artist as a business and how to handle it are.
Well, I think that there is a lot of noise in terms of the outlets of you can make money off from. I've fallen into that trap too, of like, oh, maybe I'll start an Etsy store, or I'll start a print store, and I'll do the convention circuit, and then you just run yourself like out into exhaustion, basically, and there's
I'm
real
guilty
focus.
Of the same. Yes.
It's difficult. It's so distracting, right? And then you just end up not pouring yourself into what you truly want to create, because like I said, you tie it back to financial success again, and then you're chasing the financial success instead. But I think that in terms of sharing knowledge and creating courses, and that format of diversifying, I think could be really fulfilling. And I'm starting to explore those avenues of like, how do I share my knowledge? Because I didn't go to school for coloring comics. This is just the skill set that you accumulate over time. And maybe this would be useful to other people too. And so I love what you're doing, Shawn, with ink pulp instruction, because I felt like when I was in school, that would have been so beneficial to see some more like, you know, process behind the scenes, realistic education of what to expect. And then there's, I guess, the business side, like the actual theory of business in being your own business person. Like that's also a huge section of how to survive in this industry. Like,
so
contracts.
What helped you? Yeah. So what helped you
ahead.
learn about the business side of things? Because I like my art school experience, and even when I was teaching, there was no course in the business of art. And to the point where me and a fellow professor of mine developed a business of comics course that the school rejected. And it was like,
Oh,
I think this is probably the most important course we could offer.
yeah.
So what helped you gain that information?
Uh, Mistakes, fucking up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Learned
a
on
lot
the
of that, a lot of that, and a lot of I think that YouTube has been like such an invaluable resource, like hearing other
yeah.
people talk. And I don't know if there's enough conversation surrounding it. Like, there's not enough transparency in terms of like what an artist should be paid, the expectation. Like, here's a thing that I keep having to remind myself, despite doing this for 10 years now, is like, when you finish a book, you have to allocate for like the 30 to 60 days of that money coming in. Like, you
Yeah.
don't finish it and get paid immediately.
Right.
And
Right.
that's also part of the reason contributing to like the scarcity mindset, because it's like, oh, I got to work in advance in order to get paid.
Totally.
You know?
Mhm.
Totally.
And then taxes, like depending on what country you're in.
That's a whole nother ball.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Well, in Italy, that's even
setting
worse
aside
because some companies they pay like 30 days after you finish, or even 60 days, or sometimes
Yes,
90 days.
yes.
So
Yes.
it's a shit show. Sometimes it can be.
Yeah,
90 days. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And also the like, because now we're all working internationally, right? I was working with Glenat last month. I still have a book to do with them, but there's like withholding taxes, for example, and you have to know the contracts to sign in order to bypass that and pay taxes in your own country.
Yeah.
And so that sort of stuff you're not really warned about, because it's not really the editor's job to hold your hand and tell you about these things too. Some people go out of their way, which is so like awesome of them. But yeah, I learned the hard way when an editor was like, by the way, you haven't signed these forms, so we're going to hold 25% of your income if you don't sign these forms.
Shit.
And it's going to take 60 days to pay you. And I'm just like, that was like a whole graphic novel. So you can imagine.
Oh, so you had the 60
away.
days experience already. Okay. So you knew what I was talking about. Okay.
Totally. Yes.
I saw you nodding as I was talking about that. So I was like, okay, she knows probably. Okay.
Tears coming down, you know.
Remembering.
This is why I'm in scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Mattteo, were you ever in a scarcity mindset?
Yeah. At a certain point, but I think I don't think it was. I could call it that way, but in general, there's been a time in which I was taking basically everything that would come to my way. But in retrospect, it's been nice because I've always been considered to be pretty fast, a pretty quick artist, so I could handle a lot of stuff at the same time, and that I don't even know if I knew already. I'm probably just reasoning in retrospect, but there's been a time in which I was doing so many covers and I was working on 2 monthly titles at the same time. So, and I was doing shows as well in the States. So basically, if you read comics, you would see my name, either my name or my face somewhere, because, on the shelves, I had like every time, each month, I had like 5 or 6 titles every time, because I would do covers and covers and covers. And at shows, you would see me. So there were people, I remember people asking me at shows, like, did you leave the States and, and then you came back, or you stayed in between? Because I keep seeing you. I see you more than my friends that live in the States, because I was doing a lot of shows. So in retrospect, it paid off, I think. But also it was an experience that I won't repeat again, as I was saying. So it's something that I could do back then because I was younger, but I'll never do that again.
Did you do that intentionally to sort of saturate the market with your name and your work?
That's my doubt. Like, I don't know what I was driven by when I was doing it. That's my doubt.
Were you in dumb shark mode?
Yeah, I was probably in a full like 5 years of dumb shark, and then I opened my eyes like, oh, fuck! I drew like 75 books.
Whoa!
But
what a blur!
Whoa! Where's my hair? Shit! I lost it all.
That's how you lose. Yeah, that's how you lost hair.
Yeah.
I see.
You'll see, Michelle. It will happen to you too. No, I'm kidding.
Oh gosh, I already started after I gave birth. That was a scary experience. Losing your hair is not fun as a female. I have a question though.
I'd imagine.
Yeah.
So now you are obviously decreasing your workload. Do you have certain rules or criterias that you have to run the new work by? Of like what will make you say yes? What is like a hell yes for you when you accept the job now?
If I have time, first of all, like every time I'm like. If they tell me, okay, it's going to be like 100 pages, for example, this project's going to be 100 pages. So I'm going to make sure that I won't need to do more than 3 pages per week. I can do more, but just to make sure, I'll just think about 3 pages per week. And then I'll add a few weeks more to it, just to make sure, in case I want to take a vacation, whatever happens. So that my kid gets sick and he has to stay home, whatever. So that's time for sure. It's the main thing, And
that's smart.
Yeah, and also money in general. What I've been doing lately, despite the fact that I have a page rate with DC or Marvel, I don't care. Like I ask for more money.
That is such a great rule.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I was just, okay, I'll do it.
It doesn't hurt to ask, right?
Yeah. And most of the time they say yes.
Doing that too. Yeah. It's actually unbelievable the power of just asking, because it's like some people,
it really is.
Yeah, some people just really operate on this basis. Like for me, for the longest time, I don't think I increased my rate for like 6 or 7 years until I realized I probably should, because inflation. And then I realized like nobody said no. Like everybody was like, of course. And I was like, fuck, I could have been doing this the whole time. Like
exactly.
I could have asked for more.
And conversely, when you ask and you don't get it, and like Mattteo, this experience especially with like Marvel, when you ask and they're like no, and you ask and they're like no, and like after a few years of that, you're like, oh, okay, so you don't value me, so I got to rethink working for you. When they just keep saying no, it's like sometimes you ask and you just sure, and why didn't I ask before? But sometimes asking and getting a repeated no tells you something important as well. Yeah,
there's a publisher that I asked for a raise years ago, and they told me no, and I was like, okay, it's fine. I won't do this project, but we'll see in the future. We might work together, and it's fine. And then a few years after, they contact me again, and they're like, okay, now we can afford to pay you what you asked back then. I was like, yeah, but that was 4 years ago. Now I asked for this. So I keep raising my price. And I know I sound like an asshole, but that's it. I have other publishers.
No. Matteo, you've earned your place. I might sound like an asshole
to someone. Okay, so
fuck that person.
I was just aware of that. But fuck them, absolutely. But at the same time, let me say this. Like I have other publishers that are willing to pay me that. So why would I do yours instead of the other thing?
You have raised your bar, and like your value of your work has gone up considerably. Year by year, so it's doesn't make you an asshole to ask for what you're worth.
Every time I ask for more money, I make sure that I put, the equivalent in work. Like I will ask you for more, but I'll give you more, and that's the same thing with commissions, for example, at shows. Now I settled the price. I've been selling the price for the last 2 years. I've been having the same prices. But back then, I would keep increasing the prices, but I would spend more time on the commissions. So that's my the logic behind it. I just don't like to ask and that's it, just because of me.
Right.
I want to, add something bring something to the table if it makes sense.
And now no one will hire you.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. That's why I'm doing my own book, because nobody hires me. That's the sad
Are you
truth
paying
about
yourself
it.
that much though?
We'll see. We'll see what I'm worth in about a year, because I have 180 pages to do. So it's gonna be a long process.
And then you're gonna go crawling back to that publisher like, I'll take a starting page rate.
I'll do a few pages for free if you want.
Totally.
So since I have one last question. No, sorry,
go
Shawn.
for it.
It was still related to what we were talking about. Because this one is not related.
Well, this will be the last one. Go ahead.
Okay. So going back to, mental health and all this kind of things, I wanted to ask you, since the books that you do, you said it's, more or less they take you a year for each book. Do you do anything to celebrate once you finish a book? Because I learned it's really important.
I thought about asking that. That's a good question.
That is such a great question, because no, my husband and I were just such workaholics, and it's such a bad habit. Like we've talked about this in therapy too, Shawn. So these problems as artists, it's like you just never celebrate these wins. And I mean, we're not very big celebratory people anyway, even for holidays and birthdays and stuff. But what we used to do when we were childless was we would go on big trips, like 2 to 3 months trips, backpacking, Europe, Asia, South America, Central America. But it's just not doable anymore with a kid. And so this is making me reanalyze, okay, how do we spend valuable time to celebrate an accomplishment? And I feel like I could talk for another hour about these sort of identity shifts of in your 20s, what you thought, who you were, into your 30s as an artist, as a parent, or as whatever. It's like we never take the time to process. So we're sort of living in this past self, and then we're trying to incorporate it. And sometimes it just doesn't work anymore. And that's when you could get depressed or you meet resistance. But
actually, Michele, that would be a great follow-up podcast if you want to do that. We in a month or two. That would be. I think that'd be a great conversation, and we'll have Eric on that one. I think we'll allow him. What do you think, Mattteo?
I won't be there. If Eric is there, I won't be there. I decided today. I've decided every time Eric is going to be on, I'm not going to be on.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we're not. Then it's the Fratelli Bros show now, and Eric's he's just gone. Yeah. Just Eric, you're fired.
Should I shave my head and
yeah, we'll just be us three.
Yeah, you'll become the since we are the Fratelli Bros, you'll be the Sorella.
Yeah, I love it.
The sister, Sorella.
Oh,
awesome!
I love that. I would love that.
We'll have a customized jersey for you, because we have customized jersey with Fratello on the back.
Oh.
So
we do. Yeah. And but Michele, are you prepared for the tattoo? Because we already have matching tattoos.
Oh yeah, we have matching tattoos. We didn't tell you that.
Yeah. It would be my first. Is that my initiation?
My God, what a bad initiation! No, do something else first, please. Don't get that as your first tattoo, please.
Oh God, I don't think Adam would be cool with it at all. And I wanted to ask you guys though, this is some passionate projects I'm sort of thinking about now in terms of discussing finances and the businesses, and also how to time manage. And I've started a newsletter just to explore these topics more deeply. And I love that we could transfer it into a more, interactive format as well with podcasting. But I think, later down the road, it would be maybe a really useful resources if I could get you guys to write some of this, and then we'll sort of contribute it to the same kind of resource, whether on my platform or on yours, Shawn. I'd love to.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I mean, I feel like a lot of what this podcast is about, and what me and you all and a lot of our colleagues are doing, is we're we're exploring this world of being a business person as an artist, and all the challenges it faces. So I think anything we can do to kind of relay that information to others and younger generation would be helpful, because I think this is a shift. I don't think this is just a trend. I think this is a shift.
I think
in the world of being a creative, or the world in general. I just think the internet has allowed people the option to build something in a much easier and more effective way than ever before. Yeah. So I think more and more people are going that way. All right. So on that note, I've killed the podcast again, but
this one was nice. This one, you're doing better.
That was a good ending. I landed the ending well on that one.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Michele, for coming on.
Thank you, Michele.
We'll definitely love to have you back. Yes,
that was awesome. Such a pleasure talking to you guys. I'm happy.
Absolutely. Likewise.